was given blank checks to pay people off, make things go away, manipulate the headlines in the news.
Hi and welcome to Pleasant Talk. I'm Kjersti, Flaa, and on my channel I talk about my good and bad experiences in Hollywood and working as an entertainment reporter. So today I have a very special guest with me again. I love her. I found her on TikTok and I started watching her videos and I was like, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about. So Ashley Eve has a background in psychology and spirituality. She's an expert in branding and in SEO manipulation and narrative manipulation. So she is the perfect person to talk to about everything that's been going on lately in the media when we see things are happening with creators being, silenced and muted. She has all the inside info that I feel like I lack because I don't really understand how these kind of SEO algorithms and everything work. I've just seen that it's been manipulated. So I wanted to ask her also what she thinks about Blake Lively hiring Nick Shapiro, this ex-CIA chief of staff guy, that I think we're starting to see how he works. There's a lot of news stories coming out, very positive towards Blake Lively, and Ashley Eve knows a lot about these things. So yes, please welcome her to Flawsome Talk.
Ashley Brianne Eve is here on Flawsome Talk. I'm so happy I found you on TikTok. I was like, this girl knows what she's talking about. So thank you so much for being here. And you just told me that you were inspired by my videos to start this series on YouTube. Really?
It was you that inspired me. So I've been online in the online space in branding and marketing for probably the last 6 years. And I used to always say to myself, because I was always obsessed with pop culture, and I thought, you can't make a channel about it. There's no way you can bring your history to your channel with pop culture. And then I don't know how I originally found your channel, but I found you. Thank you to the algorithm of YouTube. I found you and I thought, well, first of all, just fell in love with you right away. You're so relatable. You are someone that comes across as authentic and in integrity. And so immediately I was drawn to your channel. And then I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just give it a shot. And that's exactly how I got started.
I love that. That's always what I think as well. What's the worst that can happen? You don't succeed. Okay. Well, on to the next thing. And that's not, no, I love that. Oh my God, that's amazing. And you're doing really well. I want more people to discover your channel as well, because it's so good, everything you're talking about. So your background is in psychology and now you run a company as well, right?
I do. So I was actually, believe it or not, I feel like I've lived multiple lifetimes. I was a counselor for a long time. I found spirituality, which is how I've always connected with Justin Baldoni, is that love of spirituality and personal growth. And I somehow pivoted. I don't know, it was about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I had always built brands for myself and people started reaching out to me. I had studied branding, studied marketing, and I just got into the branding space. So I built a business that was consulting strictly for personal brands. And now it's kind of evolved over time to helping people understand SEO manipulation and narrative control online. And then everyone kept asking me for these exposés. And I thought, okay, I like doing those. So we've done exposés on Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, the Nick Shapiro, the new CIA guy, and it's just built from there.
It's amazing. It's so interesting. We have to talk about SEO and narrative manipulation. As you said, you talked about that a lot. So what can we expect now? I think especially now that we have this new guy, Nick Shapiro, involved, what can we expect from him, you think?
So Nick Shapiro to me is doing what we would refer to as SEO manipulation and narrative control. It's also in some circles called reputation laundering, just kind of like money laundering. But yeah, it's actually really interesting.
Yeah, that's a good word.
It is. It really relates, I think, to the situation. And so what he's turning, it's technically not allowed on search engines. So you and I couldn't go to Google and manipulate the SEO. We'd actually be dinged for it. So if I went and I try to put the exact same blog on my website as I do on, say, LinkedIn, just as an example, and I use the same keywords, the same blog, the same headline, what ends up happening is both my website and LinkedIn would get pushed down the algorithm for trying to game the system. But what happens is this Nick Shapiro, I believe, is not only due to his history with Blackbox and Airbnb. I don't know if you've heard about that, But with his history of blackbox, he's more of a fixer. So for anyone that wants to know like his history, it's kind of like Ray Donovan, if you've ever seen Ray Donovan. Great show, by the way. But he's coming in and fixing. So what I imagine we're going to see is a lot more of kind of that reputation laundering, where we're seeing a lot more positive stories to bury the bad. So he's turning in this ethical long-term strategy to improve a brand or to prop up a brand into a way to game the system. So he's going to push down all the negative, push up all the positive. And it's my belief that he's going to continue going after creators, especially someone like you. And that's when I originally reached out to you. It's like, this is what's happening to your Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is such a massive source for Google of information. So I think we're just going to continue to see attacks on content creators and more positive news for Blake.
Wow, this is so interesting to me. But now I feel like we've seen since he started. First of all, I saw a drop in viewership on my channel, like boom, after they hired Nick Shapiro. I don't know, it could be by accident that people are less interested in this or less interested in me, but I do feel it's a little suspicious. And then also, I think we've seen quite a few stories this week about Justin Baldoni and that he's not really a nice guy. Do you think that's Nick Shapiro at work? Does he have, can he get placed? Can he get these kind of article placed? And especially I think in LA Times, which is, a little more respected than Star Magazine, which I talked about another article where they tried to portray Justin Baldoni as a racist. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. When we look at the history with Nick Shapiro and we go back for him, even if we go back to his ties with the CIA, if you really look into the 51 agents and kind of the suppression of the laptop story and all of that, how he first came to be known, he was contacted by one of the CIA agents to reach out to a journalist that he had contacts with to get the story he wanted pushed. So if we look back to the original ties of Nick Shapiro, that is how he was used and leveraged within this 51 agents of the CIA backing this story. And then if we look at his next steps that we can find online, he worked for Airbnb and their secret, but it's not that secret, black box team. And he was essentially written blank checks to make things go away and to control the narrative. So
what was this black box? Sorry, you have to explain a little bit. What is this black box thing?
Oh my goodness, this is a rabbit hole. So this is, and I have a video on this as well. So he worked for Blackbox, and Blackbox was essentially a code name for this team with Airbnb. Airbnb was having an issue with SA, people losing their lives in these Airbnb houses and apartments, kidnappings, all of this wild stuff that was going on. And he was head honcho of it. And he was given blank checks to pay people off, make things go away, manipulate the headlines in the news. And since I released that video on him, I've had people reach out from even Australia, one of the big stories. She says, we didn't hear about this over here. It was sealed lips. You didn't hear about this. So he has a proven history of being someone that his sole job is to control the narrative and make things go away.
Wow. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about his ties to Airbnb. No. And yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. Oh my God, I'm getting a little worried here, actually.
It's a lot to take in.
Because, you don't really see it out in the open what they're doing, but I just feel like we see little snippets here and there. It's like, okay, things are changing. And as we saw now, Blake Lively appearing on South by Southwest, and I looked at some of the headlines, how someone is focusing on her fashion and whatever. But I am a journalist, and I've never experienced people reaching out to me to like plant a story. Right. So it's so hard for me to believe that this, like, the media is so dirty, it's, but then I'm wondering what kind of contacts this guy has in the media. And because like I said, the LA Times piece to me was just like, wow, could you do that with LA Times? I mean, is it that powerful?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. So I even checked out your Wikipedia right before coming on, because every day I log on to it and there's a million updates on your page. There's like a war zone going on your page. And that Wikipedia is a central piece to this as well, because Google pulls from it, AI pulls from it. So it didn't even surprise me when you're seeing those kinds of issues. And technically, they're not allowed to do that. But it's been proven that some PR companies are getting hundreds of sock puppet accounts, these fake accounts, and doing exactly that, manipulating the Wikipedia account because it's seen as by Google, but apparently no one else. I mean, in university, I wouldn't have been able to use Wikipedia as a reference, but it'll show up at the top of the search engine. So yeah, he's someone that I would say if there's anyone that could make this happen, he's definitely the one that'll make it happen.
So do you think it is or was a smart move of her to hire someone like him?
That's a really good question. And I've gone back and forth on that, because if we look back at what's come out, she's the one that, right in the article where there was this exclusive, I think it was in Variety, this exclusive that Blake hires ex-CIA, they called it out, his connection to the laptop and all the cover up in regards to the laptop with the government. They said it straight there in the article. So they were kind of getting ahead of that narrative. But I do wonder if she knew about the history with Blackbox. I mean, I would like to believe you would know who you're hiring. I think overall, in terms of branding, they're just going scorched earth at this point, to be honest. And I think that's really the last card they have. I figure they knew people were going to dig up who this was. And it was kind of like, well, let's just get ahead of the narrative. We'll say what he did, that he was the spokesperson for the government for counterterrorism and natural disasters and et cetera, et cetera. We'll just put it out there. But it didn't take long for the internet to do what the internet does and pull up a lot more on him.
So yeah, that's so
So
that's very interesting too. And I saw a video you did, was it yesterday or the day before, about another lawsuit against Ari Emanuel that you
mhm.
also found. You are like the best researcher out there. It's like, guys, go to her channel because she knows stuff. So Ari Emanuel, who was the CEO, or is the CEO of WME, who fired Justin Baldoni like within 2 hours since
Mhm.
the lawsuit or Blake's complaint was filed or the New York article came out. Yeah, what can you tell us about the new lawsuit against
Oh,
Ari Emanuel?
it's interesting. So it's against a lot of his companies. And, as we know with lawsuits, it's allegations at this point. Who knows where it'll go? But for me, it was just really interesting because certain words came up that seemed to follow him. So even something like racism. I mean, if you look back at his history, he refused to give a Navy SEAL script to Wesley Snipes. And then we look at, all of a sudden, it's really interesting to track his history. And Wesley Snipes had talked about a lot of racism at that time. We look at the Blade Trinity set. Ryan Reynolds and Parker Posey were kind of, and Jessica Biel pushed to the front. Wesley Snipes had the movie taken over from him. And then there's, a lot of rumors around that as well that I've uncovered, and involvement with Ari Emanuel. But this lawsuit's interesting. It's talking about paying off government officials, police. Yeah, it's really interesting. And talk of racism and treatment in the workplace. It was
So
just,
who is actually suing him?
I can't remember the guy's name I think
But
Louis
it's a person. It's not a
is a
company suing
person,
him.
yes, going against multiple of his businesses as well as multiple individuals. And it's interesting. You read it, at first you go, this can't be happening. But we also thought that with someone like Diddy, right? When all that came out about him, we thought, this can't actually happen in this world today. These kinds of things. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just very naive. I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. But it's just so interesting to see similarities between a lot of these big power players and the things that are now coming to the light in Hollywood.
Yes, and
Mhm.
he's still representing P. Diddy as far as we know, right?
Yes.
I mean, but he booted out Justin Baldoni like in an hour. But
Mhm.
P. Diddy, yeah, he wants more proof maybe that he's, I mean,
It's
oh, come
wild.
on.
It's
So
wild.
Ari Emanuel is pretty powerful too,
Mhm.
right? So
Absolutely.
they have a lot of powerful people or dragons
Mhm.
around them. Wow.
Absolutely. And I think my intuition is that there's going to be a lot more that comes out about him this year. I've had actually a couple people send me a few more lawsuits that he's been involved with against him that I haven't had a chance to go through yet. And I think what we're going to see in 2025 is, one, legacy media become less and less relevant because people don't trust anyone anymore. They trust the content creators and people online, like you and me, and the regular people that are on here speaking the truth. But I think we're going to see legacy media start to become less relevant overall. But I do believe we're going to see exposure a lot of these big power players. It's just very interesting, especially if you go back. If anyone wants to see my expose around Ari Emanuel with Wesley Snipes and the Blade Trinity issue and the script around the Navy SEALs, where Ari Emanuel actually got sued in the workplace for SH. He paid off his, it's wild. It is a wormhole to go down. He got sued. This is way back in the day for SH. That's when it came out that he refused to give Wesley Snipes the script. And then all of a sudden, it's just interesting. All of a sudden with Blade Trinity, he gets pushed out. Ryan Reynolds gets to the front. That's not when Ryan was being represented by Ari, but still, it makes you think like these connections between these powerful people in Hollywood. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and we have to remember that Ari Emanuel, the character in Entourage, Ari Gold, who is such a misogynist and racist. And he's so politically incorrect. Maybe the most politically incorrect character in television history is based on Ari Emanuel. And he's kind of proud about it. He's bragged about it in public. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so what do you think now is going to happen? I mean, everyone keeps asking me the same question. What do you think is going to happen now? But I think that we've seen the shift in narrative happening already. Do you think that this Nick Shapiro guy is going to be successful?
Oh, that's a great question. And I want to believe no. I think the problem ultimately overall is the collective. A lot of people have short attention spans. PR firms bank on this, that you push the bad news far enough down the news feed, you overload it with good news and people forget. And I think they're trying to bank on that. My assumption would be they're trying to bank on Google and people that go to Google more for their news. So my heart wants to say so strongly that I don't think they'll be successful. I think Ryan can save himself. I think Blake will struggle, but I really do think Ryan right now could save himself. And we're actually seeing, funny enough, in the news, the last 24, 48 hours is his Wrexham team. And a lot of gains, financial gains, good moves, good news, quote unquote, good news for the Wrexham team. And it just seems very interesting. Again, we're seeing all this positive press for Ryan right now with everything that's going on. So if my hunch would be right, I think Blake's going to struggle to come back more than Ryan with this. I really think Ryan overall, I know for a lot of people that might be hard, but I think overall he's going to come out of this. Blake, it's going to be a hard one. I honestly think she needs to go off to like a spiritual retreat for a year or something. Like,
I've been saying the same thing. Go away for a long time. Let people kind of forget about you. Then you come back and you're like, hi, I'm a new person. Like Will Smith went to India, asked for forgiveness. I don't think people have forgiven Will Smith yet, but he's slowly, coming back. And I don't know what it is with people around Blake Lively, if she has really bad advisors or if she's not listening to them.
And that's a tricky thing, because having been in branding and marketing so long, I can say that you can give the perfect plan to someone. I'll have consulting sessions with people and they have like a brand in a box that they can walk away with. And then you see them online a couple of days later and you're like, what? That is not what I said. That's not what I wrote. That's not the marketing plan we had. So I feel people like her, I really don't think she's listening. She's even said, my theory is always trust people when they tell you who they are. And she said, I need authorship. Yeah. And so I think she's trying to drive this as well. And I think it's going to be a huge wake-up call that she doesn't get authorship over the story. I mean, if she wants to make a movie out of it after, maybe that's what she's going to do. She can have authorship over that maybe. But this isn't going to go how she thinks. And I really do. When I look back at all the clients I've worked with over the years, she would be one of those that I'd fire, because at the end of the day, no matter what you do, they don't listen to you.
Yeah. And then it goes back to you because you're the one that she, but I feel like, I don't know if you agree, but I think that Blake in general, she doesn't think that she's done anything wrong. Do you think that that's how she thinks as well?
Absolutely. There's something we talk about on my channel. It's called human design, and it's kind of a spiritual tool. I always say, if anyone knows Justin Baldoni, I would love to do his human design reading, but it's a spiritual tool and it talks about your strengths. It talks about your weaknesses. And when I look at hers, the shadow of hers is really ego driven. And so when I'm looking at her chart, there's a lot of potential for leadership. There's a lot of potential for being very successful, but there's also a lot where your ego gets in the way and you're just not able to see the forest through the trees. You're not able to see that you're the problem. And I think at every step, she really cannot comprehend that she's the problem. And I've had clients like that where I'm like, your business isn't growing or your branding's not working because you are the problem. And they're like, no, it couldn't be me. It's the algorithm. It's like the weather. It's everything but me. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I can't help you when you think that.
It's funny because I've been asked so many times lately, like, what do you think would have happened if she said, I'm sorry to you or apologized to me after that horrible interview? What do you think would have happened then? Do you think she could have saved herself if she had done that?
Oh, you ask really good questions. I love these. I don't think so, to be honest. And, I think the problem is this. Like from a branding perspective, whether it was an intentional branding thing done or not, is your brand is authenticity and integrity. And people connect with you because they really can see themselves within you. And that's where I connected with you in the beginning, was that interview. How many times have all of us been in a situation where you're just trying to be nice to someone, I hate
Yeah.
icebreakers, right? You're just trying to break the ice, be nice to someone, and they respond like that. So I think no matter what, when it keeps coming out that people are trying to be kind to her and she responds like that, people aren't going to appreciate it. But yeah, I absolutely think that people are more forgiving of someone that's willing to admit their faults. And I say that in my branding and for my branding clients is just admit it. If you messed up, just own it. It's fine. People are more willing to meet you where you're at and be like, I'm a flawed human. That's what Justin has done every step of the way. If you look at his branding and his marketing of Man Enough, he's admitted he's made mistakes. And so people see themselves in him because they're like, I've made mistakes too. But I think she's built such a brand around perfection and polish that it almost to her, maybe in her head, doesn't fit her brand either to apologize.
I
Doesn't fit
think
the
you're right. Yeah. And I think it's a Hollywood disease because
oh
it's like, oh, you're liable. If you own a mistake, people can sue you. And so they never want to do that. But then we saw what happened with Anne Hathaway when she apologized to me. People were like, oh, yeah, oh, well, she's amazing. And, some people even went after me and said, your questions were bad. And
yeah.
no wonder she was rude to you, whatever. But it was a really good move from her to do that. And, but like right now, I feel like whatever she does, like I saw all the red carpet footage from the premiere. I was like, whatever she does now, people are gonna come after her, criticize every single little move that she does, and that's why I think I agree with you. She should go to a retreat somewhere.
Seriously.
Almost, yes, almost like a ego rehab
Yep.
center to just like, okay, get back to earth
Mhm.
and get in touch with your human emotions, because I feel like there's so much missing there
Yeah.
from her, not being able to have any empathy with people, like we saw when she was promoting the movie. She didn't connect to the subject matter of the film. She just like, I mean, I've gotten so many emails from people who have been domestic violence
Mhm.
victims, and they're told me their stories, and when I read them, I just start crying sometimes. It's so horrific. And then when you think about what Blake Lively did, I'm like, how could you
Mhm.
even make that movie without having these thoughts? It's incredible to me.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's the biggest piece for her, where she should have just gone away, go to a spiritual retreat. I don't know. Justin probably could have recommended some to her.
Yeah.
He's so spiritually connected. I said the other day, he quoted bell hooks. I have never heard a celebrity quote bell hooks like that. If it shows me that he's serious about a spiritual awakening, that is serious spiritual awakening work. But I'm sure he could have referred her to somewhere. Go and like show a genuine effort,
Yeah.
apologize to people and say, look, I'm trying to better myself. But I can't see that happening with her. I think they're just going to dig their heels in more and more. And it'll be interesting. I've been waiting on pins and needles to see what the judge says around this protective order, because if she's not granted that, I wonder if there's going to be external pressure on her from her peers and friends to be like, girl, you in danger, girl. You got to drop this. Like, you got to step away.
Oh my God. Okay, last question here. I want to ask you, do you think that Justin Baldoni can come back from this? Can he get back into Hollywood? And, what about his brands? How do you think he's, yeah.
So I think yes. Overall, I believe what 2025 is going to do is show the powers that be that the power is actually with the people. Because if no one is putting their butts in movie theaters, or does anyone even go to movie theaters anymore? I don't know. Or streaming certain movies, people like Ari Emanuel are going to realize that no matter what they do, no matter who they hire, we, the people, hold the money. We hold the power. So if we're not buying the things, it's not going to happen. And I really believe, one, Justin Baldoni from the beginning, I'm in the spiritual community. I work with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs. And so a lot of what he said resonates with me because I'm used to being around people like that have that mentality. And to me, it's harder to imagine that people don't think like he does and don't do the inner child healing and all of that. But I really think there's an opportunity for a shift in Hollywood. And if he wants it, I think absolutely after all of this, there's a lot of people that will support him and he has a way back in. And I was actually just watching today an interview with him and Rainn Wilson. Fantastic interview, by the way, where it was interesting. He started it was recorded 5 months ago. And he said what he got into directing and he got into this to try and prove himself, to fit in, to be seen as a good director. And he said, what I've realized is, what I was chasing isn't what I really want. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say after all this. Does he actually want to even get back into it? That interview is very telling for me. But I do believe that if he stays true to his values and what he's passionate about, absolutely, I think he has a way back in. And I actually think he might be the catalyst to change Hollywood. And I actually had someone in my DMs saying that there's actually a lot, she has connections to Hollywood and people that are talking. She said there's a lot of people in Hollywood right now that are waiting to talk, but they can't right now because of the lawsuit. But there's a lot more support from behind the scenes than we realize at this point. So I do.
I've received a lot of that too from people in the industry actually, and saying thank you so much for talking about this. That's a good way to end this. Yes, that Justin Baldoni, we will see more of him in the future. He deserves that. Thank you so much, Ashley. You're the best. And you have to go and check out her channel, you guys, because she's amazing at this. She knows so much that I don't. And yeah, so thank you again, Ashley.
It's a pleasure. Not to pull something from Justin, but gratitude is big for me as well. And I just want to say how grateful I am for you. And I don't think you realize how many people you actually inspire and how many people that maybe never reach out that are chasing their dreams because they see you standing for truth. And I really believe that you're the catalyst for and the 0 point for the change that we're going to see in the industry, because without you having brought that out, I think it really sparked this movement of what's actually going on behind the scenes and what's the truth of these situations. So you are, just an angel.
This thing anyone ever said to me. Now you're going to make me cry almost. That was so sweet. Thank you so much for saying that. That would be like my dream if I could have anything to do with that. Oh, thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much to Ashley. This was so interesting to me, this conversation, and I learned so much. I hope you guys did too. And please jump over to her channel and show her some support. I really want her to grow because I think she's so amazing. And yeah, thanks for watching my channel. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the notification button so you don't miss an episode of Flaa Talk ever. And again, thanks for reaching out to me with tips and reaching out to me with people that you think I should have on my channel. I feel like this is one of the things that I really love about what I do now is getting to know all these new people. There's so many amazing people out there. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.